With me now is Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace, who christened our new, what is it, Studio F today for Fox News Sunday?
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing, the whole...
And I'm going to say I was a little piggy about it because I said to my staff, I want to show every bell and every whistle so when people see it on Election Day, they'll say, oh, yeah, I already saw that on Fox News.
Okay, but now, were you told to say the names for something like the chandelier, this big thing with data? That
no, we weren't told to, but, you know, it's like if there's a toy, you want to play with it.
Sure.
So the chandelier, the tower, the data deck.
Right.
Are you having a little set?
No,
Are you having set envy? It sounds like you want to be there.
It is a little set. Well, I could be happy doing this out of an Olive Garden, and you get food. But it's remarkable, and your show is pretty good. But let me ask...
They left humming the set, right?
They did, right? Let me ask, you had Governor Pence on, and you revisited something I think that was that marquee moment in the presidential debate you hosted about honoring, ultimately, the results. This exchange I found very interesting. This was from just a couple hours ago. Take a look.
Sir, can you guarantee he'll put this behind us and accept the result?
Yeah, the campaign's made it very clear that, you know, a clear outcome. Obviously, both sides will accept, but I think both campaigns have also been very clear that, you know, in the event of disputed results, they reserve all legal rights and remedies.
All right. In the event of disputed results, what do you think?
Well, I think that means another Florida. He's pretty clear on this, that he certainly intends to respect the results, whatever there are. I mean, I've had two thoughts going into this week. One is, obviously, who's going to win. But secondly, that somebody's going to win. And the country, it seems to me, this has been such a bitter election, such a divisive election, that you want people to come together. And you want whoever wins, whoever loses, that the loser concedes, as we've seen in those grace moments in American democracy, and we all support the new president-elect, whoever that is. And so I just thought it was worth revisiting with him. And, you know...
If we have clear results, he seems clear.
Right. Well, that's right. And, you know, the question is tenor. Look, it may be that Clinton has to concede to Trump on Tuesday night, or it may be Trump. And I just hope that whoever loses, they do the right thing, as Richard Nixon did in his disputed election in 1960, and Gore eventually did after the hanging chads in 2000.
Wouldn't it be ironic if the onus ultimately fell on the woman who's leading in the polls, Hillary Clinton, and she has to concede?
Right. And look, there's just as much animus. There are plenty of people I know and you know who were like, the idea that Trump is going to be the next president is unthinkable. Well, you ought to think about it, because this is within the margin of error. And, you know, it's just as important for Hillary Clinton, if she loses, to concede graciously.
Let me ask you about, obviously, we're polled to death here. I mentioned 1960. I don't think we ever had anything like that then. But we have all this early voting. And right now, I think it's at 37, 38 million. Could be over 40 million when all is said and done. And high early turnout that includes Hispanics. You got into this on your show with the assumption being, I guess, that would be benefiting Hillary Clinton. Now, what is your gut about what your experts tell you about how that percentage likely breaks down?
Well, I mean, we don't know exactly how it's going to end up, but clearly they are voting. I mean, when we look at what the Hispanic vote was as a share of total early voting, at this point, as compared to 4 years ago, more Hispanics are voting. Interestingly enough, fewer African Americans are voting, somewhat understandable. Barack Obama isn't on the ballot. But to some degree, if you're getting fewer, I mean, and one of the points that was being made today, I think was by Karl Rove, is Hispanic, rather African Americans vote in such overwhelming numbers for the Democrats, for Clinton, like 90-10, that for every one African American who doesn't vote, that's 0.9 of 1 point for, you know, a decrease for the Democrats. So that's bad. I mean, the Republicans have a better chance of picking up Hispanic votes than they do of African American votes.
The record for that was with President Bush, right, when he got about 30%
for Hispanics. Right? Yeah, actually, I think he got 44% in 2004.
Now,
but Donald Trump isn't.
Right. Now, a number of Cuban Americans contacted me out of Florida to say, I'm for Trump, I'm for Trump. Now, of course, there's a breakdown in how you divide that. But could it be that we're making an assumption that's a 70, 80% Clinton vote and then misreading what's going on, let's say just in Florida?
Yes. I mean, could we be? Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things as you and I both know, nobody knows anything, and it's one of the joys of Election Day is the American people get to decide. The pundits don't decide. Folks like us don't get to decide. But to the degree you believe the polls, she has a big lead over him when it comes to Hispanics, and you got to figure the vast majority of the vote of Hispanics.
Enough to temper what might be happening with African Americans who aren't, to your point, naturally coming out the numbers they did certainly 8 years ago.
Right. And you know, when we talk about Hispanic, it isn't a monolith. I mean, you talk about Cuban Americans, they're different than Mexican Americans. And
a much smaller part of that population.
Right. But they could be a big deal in Florida.
Let me ask you a little bit about where they're campaigning, Chris. I know you made note of Donald Trump in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, in Pennsylvania, with Virginia. We mentioned the Clinton-Kaine ticket is devoting just about as much, if not more, attention to at least 2 of those states, Pennsylvania and Michigan. What's going on?
Well, Michigan is an interesting one, and I learned something today on Fox News Sunday, because a lot of people...
Beyond the chandelier.
Well, yes, we did get the chandelier. Boy, you really do have a little bit of sun envy, don't you?
It is. I got to admit it. I'm a little envious, but it's okay.
Well, I don't know.
I've moved on. I'm not...
Evidently not.
No.
But in any case, when it comes to Michigan, I thought it was very interesting. She was in Detroit on Friday. She's going back to Grand Rapids on Monday. Barack Obama is going to Ann Arbor, home of the University of Michigan, on Monday. And as you know, the most precious commodity in these final days is a candidate's time. So where they decide to spend that time is really important.
But I would read panic into that. If I'm looking at Hillary Clinton, I would go, why are you even here?
Well, here's the thing. I talked to Joel Benenson on Fox News Sunday, who's the chief strategist for the campaign, and I said, this was a state that was off the board for Trump, and why are you? And he said, because there is no early voting in Michigan.
Right.
It's what they call a game day state. And so what they're trying to do is to get, yes, they think they have a lead. They think they have a comfortable lead, but they want to be sure to get their folks out. And I suspect there's also a little concern that Trump's message on immigration and trade has resonance in some of those upper Midwestern Rust Belt states like in Ohio.
But the surrogates change the math. In other words, if people say Obama's campaigning for I got to vote for, or Beyonce's campaigning for I got to vote for.
I don't think it's that they change minds. It's a point of getting out the vote. And the fact that she was in Pennsylvania with Jay-Z, because particularly, remember, as I said, there fewer African Americans are voting. So anyone you can get who can energize African Americans to vote is a plus for Hillary Clinton.